Welcome to Safety Blitz, starring two-time Super Bowl champ and Rodney Harrison. Rodney, hope everything is good. One man who it is not so good for right now is Drew Brees. I feel like as we go into our 5 biggest takeaways, we have to start right there. 5 fractured ribs and a collapsed lung. Here is Drew Brees and head coach Sean Payton after a win they were still able to pull out yesterday.
You know, he took a heavy shot in the first half, came in. As he came out in the second half, he felt it was really impacting him, you know. And so I'm not, you know, specifically, he'll get an MRI and X-ray. His back felt sore as he tried to throw. He just came up to me and said, "Hey, I don't feel like it's I'm capable of playing." And so quickly we made the switch.
I was not going to be able to be effective. It had nothing to do with pain. It was simply just what my body was going to be able to do or not be able to do.
So here's the scoop. He fractured 3 ribs against the Bucs 2 weeks ago, and then another 2 ribs against the 49ers yesterday. So that's 5 total fracked ribs and then the collapsed lung. Have you ever heard of something like that, Rodney? He's really still in the game trying to play through it.
Well, first I got to ask you, how many ribs do you have?
I was counting them out before we came on. I'm guessing it's somewhere in the 20 range.
Really? So, I mean, if I'm Sean Payton, the thing that I do, first of all, I sign a quarterback. I sign a backup quarterback. I start Jameis Winston. That's the reason I brought him in, for him to be an insurance policy. This is a 5-year starter. Yeah, he's thrown a lot of interceptions. Last year, he threw 33 interceptions. But at the end of the day, this is a guy last year that threw for over 5,000 yards. He has more experience than Taysom Hill. You continue to use Taysom Hill in spot duty, whether it's tight end, fullback, tailback. Let him come in sometimes and run the RPOs and things that they like to do with him. But at the end of the day, man, you got to start Jameis Winston because of his experience, Jack.
It seemed like Jameis was going to sort of step into the Brees role and that he would be the passing quarterback of the offense, and then Taysom was basically still just going to play Taysom duty where he comes in and he runs, you know, power running attack from the quarterback position, does all those things, plays some tight end, plays some special teams. It just didn't seem like Taysom's role was going to change. Was that your sense? Is Jameis Winston good enough to carry the load of this offense? It seems like almost anybody that steps into a Sean Payton offense playing quarterback has success pretty fast.
Well, I mean, I think the key for him is keeping it simple for Jameis, not going into a situation where you're putting pressure on him to throw the ball consistently down the field like he had to do in Tampa Bay last year. And also, think about it. I mean, he's got so many weapons at his disposal. He's got Michael Thomas back healthy, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, who I think should be in the MVP conversation. So he has a lot of weapons where he doesn't have to do anything. Do I trust him? No, I don't trust Jameis Winston for the life of me. But guess who I trust? I trust Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton will get in his ear and tell him, you don't have to do everything. This is a completely different offense. We have a lot of weapons. We're not going to force you to throw the ball down the field. We want you to protect the ball. That's the number one thing, Jack.
It does feel like we're getting a little bit of our answer, though, with regard to Taysom, because when they, you know, decided that they were going to give him the contract extension, make sure that he was going to be a New Orleans Saint for this season, give him a little boost in the pay, all of those things. A lot of people thought that he would be the next Drew Brees, that he would step in and instantly become, you know, the next franchise quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. And I don't think that that's the case now. I really don't. I think he does everything that Sean Payton loves. I think he comes in, he's tough. You know, he's not afraid to run the ball hard. He's not afraid to make big plays on special teams, play tight end, make plays in the passing game. He's everything that Sean Payton loves. But I don't think that he's the next Drew Brees. If he were, he would already be in that role. I think we would have seen him there on Sunday. We did not see him there on Sunday. And the amazing thing was when Jameis Winston came into the game, immediately, nobody's covering Kamara, and he gets to do the same thing that Drew Brees has done so often, just dump it down to Alvin Kamara and let him go be the best player on this offense, and that was the exact strategy that they adopted as soon as Brees left the game.
Yeah, you look at Taysom Hill, and I agree with you. He's not a polished passer. He's not a polished quarterback. Matter of fact, when he's back there in shotgun, he looks uncomfortable. He doesn't really look comfortable. So, you know, I agree with you 100%. It's Jameis' opportunity. and see what he can do. And then Taysom Hill, continue to use him as an athlete in different positions, whether it's tight end, fullback, let him come in and spot duty. Sean Payton knows what he's been doing. I mean, this guy's been, Jameis, Taysom Hill's been in the system for a long time. He knows what he's what he's capable of doing.
Well, let's get to another quarterback who has shown a lot of success from the pocket, and that quarterback is Kyler Murray. Comes all the way down to the Hail Mary yesterday. They got to chuck it up. Who were you more impressed by on that final play of the game? The throw and the scramble of Kyler Murray, or DeAndre Hopkins stealing it from the entire secondary?
Well, it has to be Kyler Murray. I mean, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, he went up over 3 guys and went up and made a beautiful catch. But Kyler Murray, to be able to escape the way he did, roll to his left, flip his hips, and throw across his body 50-something yards, that was absolutely incredible. And DeAndre Hopkins, that's the reason why they traded for you and gave up so much and paid you the money that they paid you, because they believe that you can make plays like that. And look at him. You can't even stick this guy with 3 guys. He's so good. But, yeah, man, it was just so much of a fun game to watch.
It was. And really, it wasn't like the Bills defenders didn't do their job. It was just that DeAndre did his job so perfectly that he was going to be the only guy coming down with that football. But it was so amazing that Kyler could scramble, really breaks a tackle just to create enough space to be able to get the throw off. And then he's leaning backwards. His entire weight and momentum is falling sort of back left. And then to be able to put that thing 55, 60 yards in the air easily with a little bit of air under it, with a little bit of that skyscraper type ball that has a chance to come down where DeAndre can go up and get it, was really just so impressive. It does make you wonder. Hopkins, his whole career, has sort of been lingering in the top 5 and probably really disrespected much of the time that he spent in the Texans in terms of never really in consideration for the best receiver in football. People love to put AB or Julio or somebody else right ahead of him in that conversation. Should he be right there now, though? Should he be the best receiver in football, or at least in that conversation in your mind's eye?
I'm going to answer your question, and then I'm going to revert back to something. Yes, he should be in that conversation. I believe he's 1-2. I believe it's either him or DK Metcalf. I mean, it just depends on what what you like. I mean, it depends on your flavor. Now, if you're talking about a guy that's intimidating, the most intimidating receiver in the National Football League is definitely DK Metcalf. But when you look at the Cardinals, I mean, you look at the Cardinals and you see Kyler Murray scrambling around, and maybe he only has 20 yards at halftime. But he puts so much pressure on the defense where you have to completely change your defense to try to get 1 or 2 guys spying on him. And, you look at the Patriots last night, they played a lot of zone against Lamar Jackson, and that's what you have to do against Kyler. But he was still effective, a couple rushing touchdowns. I think this kid is tremendous. He talked about, this team, it's time for this team to really take that next step and go to that next level. And I tell you, he's trying to will that team to do it.
Well, let's hear from Bills head coach Sean McDermott on how they maybe could have played that Kyler Murray attack a little bit differently throughout the course of that game.
Was there anything that you think could have been different other than the outcome of the play in how it was defended? Or could you have done any better than that?
I mean, yeah, of course. Honestly, Vic, could I have done any better? Of course I could have done better.
I meant in terms of that's what I was.
Yeah,
I was
there's always, that's why I said what I said, Vic, when I came in here. The very first question I said, you're always, as a coach, you always think about what we could have done differently. Right? That's the very first thing I said. What could I have done differently? What could we have done differently? Right? You ask the players the same questions. We got great guys in this locker room. They're saying the same thing. Knock the ball down. We can't be interception minded in that situation. Knock the ball down. Right? So at the end of the day, give them the credit. They made a special play.
And I tell you, let me just say this.
Rodney,
and I tell you,
yeah, go ahead. How do they teach it? How should you play that? Yep.
I tell you this. Sean McDermott, when you're playing in a situation like that, I hate when I see defenses on television. Everybody just takes 20, 30 yards. They sit back and they let these wide receivers. If you're one of these nickels, one of these underneath guys, you see 5 of them, come up here and jam and slow these guys down. Because if you slow these guys down, then now all of a sudden it takes them longer to get down the field. And also, Edmonds is your middle linebacker. He's 6'5", 235, 40 pounds. Put him deep, put him at the goal line so anything that's thrown, he can knock it down. But Leslie Frazier's defensive coordinator, and you have to be a lot more aggressive. You ask Coach Dungy, he pointed the same point out that I'm making right now. Get up to those wide receivers, jam them, slow them down, and now you're buying time for your defensive line to get after Kyler Murray.
It's interesting. So a lot of what you just mentioned was before the ball's actually in the air. So when it is in the air, though, and it's really just Hopkins and about 3 or 4 Bills defenders, how do they teach you or coach you about what you're supposed to do? Because it did seem like a lot of the Bills were trying to catch the ball, were intercepted-minded at that point in the game. Should they have been pulling at his arms? Should they have been going for the ball? What specifically should they have been trying to do to Hopkins as he's trying to pull in the Hail Mary to go win the game?
Well, just from the years of my experience, you're taught to go down there and basically get in front of the wide receiver, just depending on, who you are. Are you the safety? Are you the corner? And how the coach is teaching it. And box him out. And when the ball is thrown, go down with the ball. Push the ball down. Don't try to catch it. Don't try to pad your stats. And that's exactly what they tried to do. Not one guy. I didn't see one guy try to knock the ball down. That's very disappointing. You think about all the work that you put in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, your body, studying film, studying different checks and adjustments, and it comes down to a play like this. This is devastating for a team, especially a team like Buffalo that's been struggling at times running the football, struggling at times playing defense, struggling at times stopping the run. Very disappointing because this should have never happened, and Sean McDermott knows it.
Especially when it's coming off a game-winning drive that they just had put together. And Josh Allen's been playing so tough and was so good down the stretch. And Stephon Diggs has the game winner who's really been dominant ever since he got to Buffalo. And so they had won the game. They had done everything possible to win the game and even had a chance to get Kyler on the ground in the backfield before he gets the Hail Mary off. But that's what's so hard about playing Kyler Murray. I mean, throughout the game, he just broke their back so many times with his legs. And you mentioned 2 of them. When he gets down around the goal line and he pulls that read option, I mean, he sometimes is crossing the goal line before half the defenders even know that he pulled that thing out. He is so fast and so dynamic when he gets down into the red zone. And so often you just see Arizona end up with 7 instead of 3 solely because of the legs of Kyler Murray. And that's really what won him this game yesterday, too.
Yeah, Buffalo did a really good job of, defensively of preventing the big play. And then all of a sudden, toward the end of the game, you wait to basically the last play of the game and you give up. And then you want who you have back there to be in that position. You got Tre'Davious White, your Pro Bowl corner. You have a Pro Bowl safety. Matter of fact, both your safeties, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, these are some of the best safeties in the National Football League, and I didn't see anyone boxing out. I didn't see anyone trying to swat the ball down. And like I said, your middle linebacker is 6'5". Like, this is so simple. Like, put him on the goal line and dare anyone to throw the ball at him. He's 6'5", and he just jump up and throw the ball. It's just losses like this, like I talked about, all the hard work and effort that you put in can really affect the team. We'll see what happens to Buffalo here in the next couple weeks.
That is, because we'll talk all week now about how good Kyler Murray is and how good the Cardinals is, and really that was the Bills' conversation. It was just stolen from them by the Kyler Murray Hail Mary right there at the end. Okay, the Rams. There's another team. Beat Seattle. Seattle now, a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, a lot of ugliness, stuff that we're just not used to seeing from Seattle. But on the Rams side of things, this was about as perfect of a Jared Goff game as you're going to find. He was just comfortable, efficient, putting the ball perfectly on target throughout the course of the game, and they got the win.
It's amazing because you saw Jared Goff, and sometimes I make fun of him because I call him Country Club because, when he's back there and he's comfortable and he's got all this beautiful protection, he's going to pick you apart. But if you put pressure on him and you hit him, you make him uncomfortable, then we see a different Jared Goff. And yesterday, they had the run game going. The offensive line did a great job, although they lost Andrew Wentworth, who is going to be a huge loss. Veteran presence, leadership, toughness, everything. But it's just amazing to me when they're running the football, everything comes off the play-action pass, the bootlegs. And let me tell you something, man. When you're watching that tape, I want you to watch Robert Woods. Everything that he does, from running the football, trying to run linebackers over, from blocking, just catching the ball, the energy that he plays with. Man, I fell in love with Robert Woods. I mean, he is just all over the place. And every time you put on film, he does the same thing. Nothing ever lets up in the speed of the game in which he plays.
I was going to ask you that because when you look at their team on paper, there's really not a dominant wide receiver. Obviously, Brandon Cooks was there recently. He's no longer with the team. So there's not one name that you go, oh, that's their DeAndre Hopkins, or that's their number one, that's their Julio, that's their whoever the case may be. They just don't have a name that pops out as a number one wide receiver. So is Robert Woods starting to become that for this team? Or is the power of this offense that they don't really have a number one, and he spreads the ball over the field? Cooper Kupp, Higbee the tight end, about 3 different running backs they have in the mix now. Is that the power of this team, or are you seeing Woods starting to become the number one option?
I think Robert Woods is the number one option. I think Cooper Kupp is a phenomenal number 2. I think their run game is excellent. You talked about Tyler Higbee, but I'm talking about Gerald Everett. He is athletic. He's fast. They both complement each other. So they have 2 tight ends that are really good athletic tight ends that can catch. They have 3 really good running backs. They have a good offensive line. They have a solid quarterback. I mean, they have everything you want. And they have a mastermind calling the plays. And defensively, they've gotten better. And just think about when they moved Jalen Ramsey to the star spot or the nickel spot. And it just seems like all the other guys kind of just started making plays and interceptions. They're tackling better because when they played against Buffalo, maybe a month ago, I was complaining about the lack of physicality, the missed tackles, and all those different things. And it just seems like Jalen Ramsey has come in and really kind of just brought that secondary together and really taken them to the next level.
And Rodney, you mentioned that defense. The defense has been playing very well lately. Let's hear from Sean McVay on his D after the win.
Unbelievable job by our defense. You know, Darius Williams with 2 unbelievably big picks for us. Second half, the one after the turnover offensively to be able to get that play. This guy shows up in a big way. I thought Jalen Ramsey was outstanding throughout the course of the day. Didn't see a lot of action from some of the guys that he was over the top of. And just our defense as a whole. I mean, you just can't say enough about what they've consistently done, doing it against an offense that's arguably producing at the highest level in the league right now.
So there you go. There's McVay on his D. Rams are rolling. Let's get to another defensive performance that I know you loved, and it came in prime time, Sunday Night Football. Bill Belichick got another look at Lamar Jackson, and this left you going, he's still the best. Belichick's still the best coach in all of football. Why, Rodney?
You know, I've heard Coach Belichick so many times this year talk about being outcoached, outplayed, and not prepared. And I understand the Patriots haven't had a lot of practice, but a lot of teams haven't had a lot of practice. But I thought last night was a masterful job because he used the weather just like when we used to play against the Colts and all these other teams, these California teams that came in, and really used it to his advantage. But he went back to his roots. What are the Patriots' roots? Even when Tom Brady was there, was physicality, having tough, smart guys that play well under pressure. And it always started in the trenches, whether it was the offensive line or defensive line. And they control the offensive line. I mean, they absolutely did a wonderful job. And Damian Harris, like, what other number than number 37 should he be wearing? This dude is tough. He's physical. He runs with a lot of energy. And between him and Rex Burkhead, what more do you want from the running backs? I mean, James White is excellent out of the backfield, but those 2 guys are very versatile too. So, like, when I watch him, this is what we've been expecting from the Patriots. We've been expecting this tough, physical team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. We expect a level of accuracy from Cam, short, intermediate passes. And I thought Belichick did his best coaching job since the Seattle game last night.
Yeah, we've seen flashes of that offense having success. I mean, I even think back to the Seattle game that they had, Sunday Night Football. That was when the offense was really that was this new Patriot offense. And it's 2 teams, talking about Baltimore, talking about New England, that have a similar question to answer, is that if you don't have a prolific passing game, can you make a deep playoff push? Can you go win playoff games? And maybe the answer is yes. When the weather's like it was on Sunday Night Football, it plays into the hands of both of those teams, really, in the way that they want to attack you. They want to run their quarterbacks. They want to get the power running game going. I mean, probably the best pass that we saw all night, Rodney, came from a wide receiver when you're talking about the New England Patriots. So do you think it's possible to make this deep playoff push without a passing game that seems like it's anywhere even near the top 10 of the NFL?
See, the only thing that makes me say no is when I think about Kansas City, when I think about, say, Pittsburgh. I mean, they can put up points, they can pass the ball. But the thing about Kansas City that's different from Pittsburgh, they can run the ball. If they decide and they have to, if they're forced in a situation where they have to run the football, I believe Kansas City can straight up run the football with those backs that they have, with the offensive line that they have, and just the amount of pressure that offense and Patrick Mahomes and all those weapons put on you. You know, it's going to force you to keep two safeties back, and once he sees two safeties back, he's handling the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Kansas City, you mentioned Pittsburgh. Those are two teams that just so wealthy with playmakers. It just seems like they can score every time they touch the football. Another offense that's starting to look like that too, the Bucs, which is surprising to say after they just got smoked by New Orleans. It's a bounce-back performance, and it started to look like, you know, everyone sort of is dreaming up this Bucs team as a Super Bowl contender. This was the first time I sort of felt it, saw it. Antonio Brown looked like AB. This looked like the old AB. Mike Evans looked like, you know, the player we had come to expect. Gronk even looked healthy for, you know, certain points of that game. Certain points he doesn't look quite as healthy. But they have so many guys that they can work the ball to, in a big day for Ronald Jones running the football too.
Yeah, that was the key. And you think about Tom Brady. If they want to have success, they have to be able to run the football because it takes pressure off Tom Brady. When Tom Brady, once again, he's very similar to Jared Goff. He's back there, nice, clean pocket. He's going to pick you apart. He's going to, Mike Evans over there one-on-one. Antonio Brown, he's going to pick you apart. But if you put pressure on him, you hit him, it's going to be completely different. So I like what they did, running the ball and trying to reestablish that physicality at the line of scrimmage. And that's what they're going to have to do because sometimes Brady's 40-some years old. He's going to be off, and he may not have that chemistry with his wide receivers. But if you're not clicking with your wide receivers, can you line up and run the football? And that's something that we're going to find out here in the next month of the season.
And the thing that's kind of funny, too, just watching AB play is that it seems like about half the time he doesn't even really know what the play is, what the call is. And so he'll be communicating with the other wide receivers who are standing next to him, like just trying to figure out, like, what route do you want me to run here? Slant, go, like you name it. And then they kind of whisper it to him, and you can watch it happen. And then he runs the route, and he's wide open. So it's like he's still learning the offense. It's only his second week playing with the Bucs. Once they get this thing flowing down the stretch, is this going to be the Antonio Brown that we're all used to seeing, one of the best wide receivers in the whole league?
I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see one of the best wide receivers because, you know why? Because he's not going to be the featured guy. He's got to deal with, look at those names, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, the backs out of the backfield, Cameron Brate, all the other Scotty and all those guys that he has to deal with. I mean, he's got so many guys. So I think Antonio, in order for him to really be that breakout superstar that we're expecting, I think he has to be the number one receiver. But on this team, he could be a really good quality receiver. And let me tell you, this is what it's going to come down to, Jack, in the passing game. If these guys, these receivers, Chris Godwin and all the guys that I named, if they're okay with one another getting and them not being the man, then they're going to be okay. But if jealousy creeps in or a little envy, oh, man, why does he getting so many passes? I've been here, you know, I'm making all the money. That's when problems happen. So hopefully they can continue to just go smooth. But if they start getting jealous of one another, it's going to be a mess down there.
I almost feel like they're going to have to figure out a way to get along because it's kind of what the top of the league is becoming right now. It reminds me of the NBA some, where it's like the top of the league is just so talented. Pittsburgh, KC, now the Bucs too. People are just loading up on playmakers, and it seems like if you're going to make a deep playoff push, that you're going to have to be one of those teams that can go score 40 points when we get into the playoffs. And the way that the Bucs are built, I mean, you just look at these receivers. Godwin is an awesome route runner and really got that going yesterday. AB, same situation. Scotty Miller, you mentioned, and then size, Gronk, Mike Evans, Brate. They all have the ability to win with size. And so when Brady can stand back there and just go, got a one-on-one with Gronk here, I got a one-on-one with Evans here, and I got AB working in the middle over at the slot. I mean, I don't know how one of those guys is going to be open every single play. And the amount of targets that they've given AB early lends me to believe, and they missed him for about a 66, 67-yard bomb for a touchdown, too. Tom just overthrew him a little bit early on in that game. So this could have been a way bigger Antonio Brown day, and then the whole world would have been talking about AB. I think he has one of those huge 140, 150-yard, couple touchdown games coming up, and I'm going to guess it's going to be coming soon.
Yeah, and you know what? You don't mind as a coach or a teammate that he would have those type of games, but I don't believe he's going to have those type of games every single week. They're very difficult to have, especially when you have so much talent. So, you know, a lot of times you can have 6 or 7 passes and then looking forward to the following week, but you may only get 2 catches. You still have to keep your attitude positive. You still have to support your other wide receivers and make sure that there's no bitterness and all those different things. But Tom Brady is so good at making sure that everybody's on the same page. But one of the things that really took the teams that I played on to championships was just no one cared about who got the credit. No one cared. We didn't care who got the commercials, even though Tom got all the commercials. We didn't care who got the pretty girls, anything like that. It was just about football, congratulating and supporting one another, Jack.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.